The Mist Flower team is a legendary team. They gathered together to look into the eyes of death itself. Their leader was known as an immortal, a man who could not perish. This is a guy with white fur around his neck, a red cloak behind his back, brown short hair, black armor with golden inserts. As a weapon, he uses a knight's sword. The berserker player lived for the slaughter and destruction of monsters. His name was No Yunha. This man did not spare himself, dealing with monsters. He managed to reach one of the 8 black dungeons of the world, which no one had passed before him. He was the first to go that far. Further events unfold in this place, which is called the Dungeon Abyss, the deepest and darkest places. Having dealt with another creature with the help of his weapon, the hero pulled out a sword from his carcass, after which he drew attention to strange sounds ahead. A crowd of monsters rushed at him, ready to devour him. But Yuna is already sweating from the past journey. However, full determination and calmness are visible in his gaze. The hero is confident in his abilities. A huge snake, similar to a cobra, but having more distinct appendages in the area of the head. A monster similar to a troll, as well as a bloodthirsty pig man dressed in armor and using an axe as a weapon, blocked the guy's path. It turns out that this is the place where his life of 32 years came to an end. The hero was the first to take off. His eyes are blazing with the fire of battle. He finished off the armored monster with one blow. The guy exhales heavily, trying to get air after a quick jerk. But the monsters are not asleep. A huge snake bites into his arm, intending to bite through his armor. But Yunha does not have time to react to this, so he has to resist the pressure of the monster, who is trying with his physical strength not only to bite through the armor, but also to get to the head. The red elongated pupil literally drills its prey, and wants to bite off a piece of flesh. The hero finds the strength to overcome a huge snake, after which he immediately strikes back with a sword guard on the monster's head. With his power, the guy drives the monster into the floor. The overgrown cobra still does not give up trying to kill its victim. She makes a dash, intending to make a death bite. But No Yunha does not lose vigilance. He strikes with the blade of the sword faster, thanks to which he decapitates the creature. The last monster is already heading towards the hero, who has already dealt with 2 opponents. The new one at once has gray skin, a huge muscular body, and instead of fingers, he has huge sharp spikes on his hands. A huge monster with a roar is moving towards No Yunha. He is so eager to taste his flesh. The guy accepts the monster's challenge. He strikes back at a huge opponent from a U-turn, emphasizing his speed and accuracy. The guy aims at the enemy's mouth, intending to separate half of the head from the body in order to instantly deal with the enemy. But something goes wrong. The monster is not as stupid as it looks at first glance. The moment the hero's sword is in his mouth, he closes his mouth, breaking No Yunha's sword. In the hands of the guy, only a stump of a weapon remains. It becomes clear from the guy's face that he did not expect such a development of events. The enemy uses the hero's hitch. He strikes a powerful blow at the guy, sending him flying. But Yunha, like a pebble thrown on the water surface, bounces off the ground several times, hitting his back very painfully on the floor of the dungeon, but he has the strength to stop his flight. The guy, after another impact on the ground, does a somersault in the air, landing on his feet. The hero throws the broken weapon aside. Anger and bloodlust are burning in his eyes. A huge monster is already moving towards him. This time the guy is in no hurry to attack. Another sword appears on his belt, which he is going to use in battle. The hero concentrates his energy in the sword to break through the enemy's defense this time. The opponent repeats his previous strike. With a wild roar, he raises his hand to strike, intending to repeat the previous collision. But Yunha attacks differently. He pulls out his sword at the last moment, when the maximum amount of energy is concentrated in him. The hero strikes first. He is not trying to cut off the head of the enemy, but to aim at a vulnerable area. The weapon passes through the soft tissue in the chin area, piercing the brain of a huge monster. After that, the guy pulls out the weapon with a sharp movement. The creature falls to its knees, burying its head in the bloody floor. But Yunha takes a few breaths to recover. He carefully looks over his shoulder to assess the scale of the battle. His legs are already giving way. The battle was not easy. Behind the monster, who died on his knees, there were several more corpses of people in the same shape. The guy notices in the distance a sword stuck in the ground with a sharp side. He still has doubts that everyone present is dead. However, he needs to get a replacement for his broken sword. The sword he used to kill the last enemy is very small and looks more like a dagger, so he needs a replacement for the main weapon. He passes through the entire battlefield, where there are quite a lot of swords, but one particular weapon captures his attention. He stands out from all the others with his aura, but Yunha remains vigilant when going around. He keeps his hands on his dagger, ready to use it at any moment for defense or retaliatory attack. The hero pulls out a sword that stands out from the rest. The guy's voice is shaking. He was very tired from all the way he had traveled. It wasn't easy for him to get here, but he doesn't think it's important, because then he's going to kill the boss alone. The guy walks confidently forward. He straightens up, and a new sword glitters in his hands. Bloody water squelches under my feet. He comes to a huge stone gate. They depict two heads. The first is the head of a terrible creature with huge rounded horns and fangs extended from the lower jaws. The creature is somewhat similar to the devil from ancient myths. Below it is the bull's head. But Yuna opens huge and heavy doors with one physical force, and then goes into the darkness of the room. The guy can't see anything. He realizes that the room is completely dark, which means that his enemy is definitely here. A red eye opens in the darkness, and the guy notices that his enemy is the Master of Darkness. The boss's eye opens to the maximum, after which a powerful attack leaves a hole inside the hero's stomach, sending him flying. The guy didn't even see the enemy's attack, so he couldn't react. With his carcass, no Yuna punches a hole in the wall, flying into the next room. He hits the floor several times. In flight, a new sword flies out of his hand. The flight is stopped by a stone column, upon collision with which blood flies out of the mouth and wound of the guy. He falls to the 5th point. There is ankle-deep red water under my feet, and blood is oozing from the wound. But Yuna smiles, realizing that most likely this is his grave. Before he dies, the guy reflects on his opponent. He notes that the enemy was too strong. But Yuna notices that humanity is too weak now to fight such a monster. The hero thinks that dying here is not so bad. This is the deepest level that no one has reached yet. However, other things being equal, he still cannot believe that he will die at the hands of some monster. A voice from the side distracts the guy from his dying thoughts. A girl with orange hair and a pendant around her neck in the form of a blue stone demands that the hero does not die. Trails of tears are streaming down her cheeks. While the girl is trying to use her power to heal the hero's mortal wound, the latter learns that it is Lai Yuan. He is a little surprised that she is alive. One of No Yun's eyes has already closed, and the other is directed at the girl. His mouth is bleeding non-stop, but he finds the strength to ask Lee what she is doing. He also says that the girl should run away rather. Yuan shuts up the guy, saying that he will help him. Despair and confusion can be seen on her face. She doesn't want to lose him. Mentally, the girl realizes that the guy's wounds are too serious. She is generally amazed that he still holds on, considering it a miracle. Then Lee realizes that the only thing that can save No Yunhu is a miracle. The girl decides to create a miracle to save him. The subconscious leaves the hero. Eyes roll up. He understands that this is the end. The hero dedicated his life to killing monsters. The guy understands that he has no regrets, but his partner will be left alone after his death. He apologizes to her if he did something wrong. The guy admits that he is not used to getting attached, but he is still worried about a girl who has only recently entered adulthood and has already been left alone. He thanks Bakran, who saw the best in him. Meanwhile, the girl is not going to give up and leave the hero just like that. She states that even if there is a time limit on the return, it does not matter. The yellow glow begins to emanate from Lee's hands, which spreads to No Yunhu. She wants to save him at any cost. She is ready to pay any price for his salvation. A powerful ray of energy falls from the sky on the hero, after which something unusual happens. The guy opens his eyes in front of two people. The man is holding a toy in his hands, asking to pay attention to him, and the girl notes that he is still asleep. Here a representative of the fair sex notices that the child opened his eyes, saying his first word, Agu. The girl notices that it was the man who woke him up. The hero is trying to realize what is happening here. He assumes that he has entered the afterlife. While the guy is in his thoughts, the girl addresses him by name, posing as his mother. The man claims that he is his dad. He also assumes that Yuna has woken up to look at him as soon as possible. Here the hero pulls his child's hand forward, after which the girl grabs the little finger. This surprises the fair sex a little, but she quickly realizes that the child wants to hold her hand. At the same time, the father gets a little upset, reminding that he also has hands and 10 fingers. It is then that the hero realizes that this is not the afterlife. He also notices that he can't do anything, including move his body normally. The guy comes to realize that he did not die, but returned to the time when he was 1 year old. The hero's eyes widen, because she believes that it is impossible to rewind time just like that. Then he remembers that his companion talked about a miracle that would allow the impossible to happen. The hero assumes that Yuan activated a miracle right before his death. He notes that from the moment she stood on a par with the 12 thrones, it is not surprising that she can turn back time. Meanwhile, the child's parents talk about who he looks like. The girl notices that the child has big and round eyes, like his father. Ewan, meanwhile, admits that he did not think he would ever see his parents again, because they both died when he was 6 years old. They were killed by monsters. This was the starting point for the hero, who completely changed after this event. Hatred for all evil spirits ignited in him. Ewan stretches out his hand to the light, finally fully realizing that he has been given a second chance. He swears that this time he will change the future. The child squeezes his fist, looking at the light. Parents notice this, rejoicing at such an action of the child, wanting to capture this event on the camera. The hero is fully aware of the current situation. He has preserved his memory, but he is only a child. This means that he is absolutely helpless. His next years of life will be as follows: eat, sleep, and walk under himself. However, with all this, the guy still got a chance to breathe again, and this already suggests that it can at least turn over. Gathering his strength, Yuna gathered his strength, after which he made a jerk to move from his back to his stomach. He's stuck on his side. At the same moment, a little girl next to them was shouting words of support, declaring that he would be able to do it. This crazy girl's name is no Yuna. She is his sister, who is 4 years older than him. The hero admits that the memory of her is much more vague than about her parents, but he still remembers one moment in detail. This was the moment when their parents were killed. Yuna was trembling with fear, but with all the range of emotions, she hugged her brother, saying that she would always be with him. The hero is fully aware that on the day when the monsters took his family, his sister held him tightly and repeated one phrase. At that moment, Yuna made a second jerk, ending up on his stomach. The girl began to clap her hands, praising her brother. Emotionally, Yuna hugged the hero, declaring that he was doing well. The guy understands that his sister is just crazy about him. Mana is everywhere. Although there is not much of it, it is in the air. At 9 months old, the hero begins to collect mana while sitting in a meditation pose. He realizes that in the past he always had a lack of mana, so it was hard for him. So he decides that now he needs to take advantage of the opportunity and collect it while his body allows it. Here the collection of mana is interrupted by a sister who approaches her brother with a question about what he is doing. The hero noticed something important while he was collecting energy. It turns out that his sister is just a sponge imbued with an extraordinary amount of mana. He notes to himself that when an individual accumulates so much energy in himself, he ends up with pycnosis. Yuna looks at her brother with a question. However, having received no answer, she takes him in her arms. Yuna also understands that pycnosis, in turn, has an extremely detrimental effect on health. The guy in the child's body makes a note that until a tragedy occurs, he needs to help her, train her to control her mana. Yuna puts her brother on his feet, saying that he will help him master walking. The hero turns 4 years old. The guy knows that he still has a lot to do, and he also began to spend more time on the street. The sister also brought her brother to her friends. Children greet Yuna. Some of them are playing in the sandbox, and some are just eating chips. The hero notices an important detail. His sister not only communicated well with other people, but in general with everyone in their area, unlike him. The girl looks like a guy in the body of a child, addressing him by name. She is very aggressive towards him, asking questions about why he came here and what he should do here. The hero honestly answers that he was dragged here. At the same time, he addresses the interlocutor by name. The girl's name is Drin Minji. A little representative of the fair sex is angry at the boy. She reminds him that she asked him not to call her that. She talks about her name being Kim Minji. Yuna just shrugs off her words, showing his disinterest in this matter. He also notices that he saw some kind of Drin, so he called it that. At this time, Yuna asks the kids what they will play today. A fat guy with chips declares that there are more of them today than usual, so it's better to play robber Cossacks. Yuna is bored by everything that is happening. Still, he is no longer a child, so he does not understand why he should be with them when he is already 36 years old. This is taking into account 4 years after rebirth. The little sister approaches her brother, remembering that he will play robber Cossacks for the first time. She offers to tell the rules. The hero's lips twitched, and mentally he noted that it was quite pleasant to see his sister's smile again. Evening is coming. Brother and sister walk home through the streets of the city. The boy looks at his clothes, noticing that they are up to their ears in mud, and this is no longer the case. Yuna laughs at this, and then asks her brother if he had fun. The hero does not give an exact answer, only holding out the word probably with doubt. There is a roar of some monster nearby. The girl is scared, but the hero is completely focused. A wild dog comes out of the alley. His eyes are red, filled with bloodlust, and saliva flows from his mouth. Yuna covers her brother with her body. It is clear that the girl is worried and afraid of the monster, but she still does not back down, because Yuna is standing behind her. The hero does not show a drop of fear or panic. His hands are in his pockets, but he is not relaxed, but alert. The sister, with a tremor in her voice, tries to calm the closest person, saying that everything is fine. She is trying to come up with something to get out of this situation. And the hero also remembers the day that turned his life around. He remembers the words that his sister repeated, and then decides to act. Yuna removes her sister's hand, giving a negative answer. The guy in the child's body realizes that then he was weak and only trembled in his sister's hands, but now everything is different. The hero comes forward, taking a few steps towards the monster. He releases his mana to freedom. He is enveloped in a blue glow from the overflowing power. The wild dog looks at the boy in disbelief. There is no longer the certainty of murder in his gaze as before. Moreover, the monster begins to fear its victim. Red rubies light up in the boy's eyes, and he releases his bloodlust on the monster, loudly and clearly ordering him to disappear. The wild dog runs deep into the black alley, and the hero absorbs his mana into his body, exhaling heavily. Yuna doesn't know what to say. She is impressed by what she saw, and the hero only asks her not to worry, assuring that he is fine. Yuna snaps at her brother with questions. She is very interested in how he did it now. She assumes it was his mana. The girl's eyes show joy and a desire to learn. The sister declares that she also wants to and asks the hero to teach her this. While Yuna is running around her brother, expressing her feelings, Yuna notes to herself that, probably, it should be touching, so what is happening now is quite an expected reaction from her. The hero grabs his head, asking his sister to stop. He declares that he will teach her. The girl does not believe these words. She is over the moon with happiness. The guy in the child's body is mentally thinking that he was going to teach her anyway. The sister takes her brother's hand, saying that they need to run home, because their mother will worry. Yuna admits to himself that he always just wanted to protect her smile. He realizes that before his body regressed, his family was cut out when he was 6 years old. The hero sets himself a goal to prevent this. To change the future, he is ready to do anything. The hero starts teaching his sister. It happens at home. Yuna is trying hard to use mana to make the bundle spin. After another attempt by the sister, the guy in the child's body says that she is doing wrong, and that she needs to put enough strength in the right direction to keep the balance. The girl shyly lowers her eyes to the floor, saying that it is very difficult. The hero realizes to himself that the sisters are born with the gift of preserving large amounts of mana, but, unfortunately, no talent for control. He believes that someday the girl will be able to curb her strength. At this time, Yuna rolls up her sleeves, stating that her brother should watch her twist the bundle now. The girl pours a decent amount of force into the object, which really starts spinning, but after a moment it flies away. The sister tries to catch him, while the boy notes that she still has to study and study. The whole family gathers on the couch watching a movie. The mother reminds that next year Yun will be 6 years old, which means that he will go to kindergarten. The hero declares that he absolutely does not need it. The girl stands her ground, reminding that her son promised something. The boy looks away, remembering that by constant whining he forced his parents to reject the idea of sending him to the garden. But he had to promise his mother that he would go to it when he turned 6. He can't believe that he will be stuck for a long time among noisy children who cry for any reason. Only from such thoughts does his head begin to split. Meanwhile, 2 presenters appear on the TV screen. The man says that there is only 1 minute left until the end of this year. He notices that today will leave a mark in the history of mankind. The TV presenter asks to pay attention to the screens. The word is passed to the reporter by helicopter. It is located at the Jeonmi Temple, where their ancestors, members of the Joseon dynasty, are buried. The girl declares that a new chapter in the history of Korea begins here. The hero grabs his head, remembering that all this is not easy. After mankind discovered mana, people were only doing this, that they constantly used it. But they just didn't teach that when using mana, it generates monsters. Yuna recalls that in 1999, right before the beginning of the 21st century, an incident occurred that was called the end of the century. Then about 30% of the entire population was lost. Humanity was trembling with fear, because people had to get along with the threat of monsters that appeared out of nowhere. The guy notes that all governments and laws instantly lost all their power, and the only force that could win, mana, created a new hierarchy in the world. The richest and most influential people and players with powerful mana overthrew the remaining governments and united into a new force. But by the time the situation stabilized, humanity had already suffered enormous damage. Cities lost contact with each other, and large territories remained isolated. Their demise was only a matter of time. But in Korea, full of despair, a small light was lit. A beautiful girl appeared on the TV screen, dressed in the outfit of a real empress. Her beauty delighted Yuna. This girl's name is Lee Ga-il. She was a popular actress, but became the first protective goddess of Korea. She can stop the effect of mana and disperse it. The girl has the gift of white grace. All players defending the altar will become the sword defenders of Korea, which are called the 12 Thrones. The players are controlled by the Manhwa Control Bureau, but the strongest of them create their own clans. As a person who received the rarest gift, able to stop monsters, and a very influential person in Korea, Lee Ga-il was elected one of the 12 thrones. Players who became the throne and belonged to the clan could use the power of the Control Bureau and the power of their clan to monitor the activities of the players. Lee Ga-il said that she hoped that the work of the 12 thrones would bear fruit in the future. The girl sent her mana into the crystal ball, asking for help from the gods of earth and heaven, so that they would give her the power to protect this country. The energy from the ball rushes into the sky, begins to create a barrier around the city. The reporter also says that right now a cocoon is unfolding before their eyes. This is a hemispherical barrier that will not allow mana to rage. It colors the skies of Seoul. Yuna takes off from her seat, wanting to look at this creation from the balcony. The hero goes after her. A beautiful radiance appears in the sky, which causes an admiring exclamation of the sister. Parents go to the children on the balcony. Yuna shares her impressions with her mother, saying that the sky at night is so beautiful. The father of the family is happy that they will finally be able to live in peace. Parents fold the urns in a prayer gesture, thanking the goddess for this. Families on neighboring balconies also close their eyes and pray to the goddess. Yuna also expresses a desire to pray too. She closes her eyes and clasps her hands in a prayer gesture. The sister asks her brother to pray with everyone, and the hero mentally notes that there is no point in praying, because there are no gods in this world. He knows that when the end came, the gods also perished. The hero notices that the skies are turning black again. Yuna prays that the goddess will allow her family to live happily. Yuna also notices that this will be the case in this life. He folds his hands in a prayer gesture, mentally noting that he will be happy with his family. The hero turns 6 years old. The incident is getting closer and closer to Yuna's family. By the age of 6, as promised, Yunhu went to kindergarten due in Evergreen Pines. Teacher Teo announces to all the children that a new friend will join them today. He asks the hero if he wants to introduce himself. The boy introduces himself. He gives his name, age, and says that he is pleased to meet everyone present. The teacher notices that Yunhu spoke very briefly about himself. He offers the child something to add, because the guys really want to make friends with him. The hero also notes to himself that he hardly needs children as friends. Then a familiar voice is heard from the crowd of children, who is clearly not happy that the boy got into this group. This voice belongs to Kim Minji. The hero is amazed that the girl is also here. He turns to the interlocutor, not Kim, but Drin, continuing to tease. Naturally, these words anger the little representative of the fair sex. Kim explodes from the spot, viciously shouting that the boy should not call her that anymore. The educator stops those present, urging them to calm down. Teacher Teo asks the children to be more friendly to Yuna, noting that they will still have free time before lunch. The man retreats from the hero, seeing how the children do not listen to him. The boys pounce on the boy with questions about where he lives and what he likes to play. Some of the children even wonder if Yunhu knows how to add and subtract. The teacher just stands on the sidelines, assuming that everything will be fine. The hero manages to escape. He walks down the corridor where there is no one. He mentally notes that he barely managed to escape the endless stream of questions. The boy notices that he hates children. She stumbles upon a children's corner of books. Yunhu approaches the books, realizing to himself that literature is here for kids. But it's much quieter here, so he decides to kill time by reading. He picks up a more or less interesting book, pulls up a chair to the table, and then sits down. A girl with a pink bow and black and blue hair is already sitting at this table. She looks at the guest with surprise. The girl blushes and is embarrassed, looking at the hero, but her admiring is interrupted by a voice from the side. 3 children come to the lovers of reading. These are Ma Banjing, Cho Younghook, and Yong Sinjing. Junhook notices that the girl is reading again. He doesn't understand what they all found in these books. The girl's name is Yong Haeun. Danzin addresses her. He notes that she always sits alone, which suggests that she has no friends. Jan turns to the boys. She doesn't know what to answer them or how to behave in such a situation. Junhook tears a pink ribbon from the girl's hair, not understanding how she can even wear such a thing. Jan is blown up from the spot, trying to get his thing back. She asks Junhook to return her item, noting that her dad gave it to her. The boy declares that he is not going to return the ribbon, because he does not want to. He takes off, offering Jan to catch up with him and pick up the ribbon. Sinjin stretches his arms forward, offering a friend to give him a pass. Tears appear in the girl's eyes. She asks to return the ribbon to her. Here a voice from the side forces everyone to stop. The hero notices that all this is childish. All eyes turn to Yoonhoo, who continues to read the book. Junhook demands that the hero repeat what he said. Then Yoonhoo rises from his seat, after which, looking straight into the eyes of the bully, declares that he behaves like a baby, noticing that only the three of them have fun from this. Out of spite, Junhook raises his fist to strike, after which he is going to smack the newcomer in the face. But the hero evades at the last moment, putting a footboard, from which the boy goes flying, losing the ribbon. Yoonhoo takes a pink ribbon, approaches the girl and gives her thing. At this time, the bully falls painfully on his back. The hero tells Jan not to let anyone take this thing next time. Sinstin and Banzin run up to a friend lying on the floor. Junhook is in a rage. He declares that he will not just leave it. The hero notes to himself that he is very scared to hear such words from a 6-year-old boy. He turns towards the bullies, releasing a drop of his power. The trio runs away in fear, and Junhook shouts at the last that he will get him next time. Then someone tugs on Yoonhoo's sleeve. He turns his head and sees a joyful girl. She thanks him for returning her ribbon. The hero mentally notes that Minji and the bully Junhook have more mana than the average person. The others in the garden do not stand out, except for the girl opposite. He sees this power that literally emits her body. This scares the hero a little, who understands that the girl simply has an impossible amount of mana. He even makes the assumption that she may even have more mana than his sister. That's just unlike his sister. Yang Hain skillfully controls his strength, so the mana is concentrated around and does not scatter. Yoonhoo notes that such a child would become one of the 12 thrones in the future, or at least their pupil. The hero looks at the girl's face with interest from a close distance. This causes embarrassment for Yang, but the boy ignores it, being immersed in his thoughts. The fact is that before the regression, he had never heard her name. He understands that even if she didn't become a player, she would become popular because of the amount of mana inside her. The hero does not know what happened, since the girl is not in his future, but he decides to make friends with her. He holds out his hand to her, offering friendship. Jan shakes hands, giving a positive response. Yoonhoo realizes that mana is a great power in this world, so, looking at its potential, the boy decides to stay closer to the girl. Jan thanks him again, after which he says that he wants them to be good friends. Events are transferred to the hero's house. Mom thanks her son for the gift. The boy mentally notices that this is a paper carnation that he made in kindergarten, and his mother just took it from her son's backpack. The girl also thanks her daughter, who gave her a paper carnation. The hero, seeing what happened in the end, realizes that his sister is also very bad at origami. At this moment, Yuna declares that she has another carnation, which is intended for her brother. The hero accepts the gift of his sister, and his mother notices that his son made as many as 3 carnations. She assumes that the third one belongs to Yuna. 2 representatives of the fair sex look at the boy in anticipation of action, and Yoonhoo wanted to give it to his grandmother. Before the regression, when Parents' Day was coming up, they put these carnations in school. The hero was forced to do them with everyone in the class despite the fact that his parents had already passed away. They lay crumpled at the bottom of his backpack. I found them for my grandmother when I was collecting him for school, and put them on the bedside table in the hallway. But on none of the holidays did the hero give them directly, because he thought that when he gave them, that at the same moment his longing for family and hatred of monsters would die in him. Yoonhoo realizes that he did not show his gratitude to his grandmother until her death, but in this life he decides to do everything differently. The 4th of May is coming. The government decided to open the forbidden roads so that citizens could unite with their families in other cities by the beginning of Family Month. A large number of players were hired to be ready for the appearance of monsters on the roads, but because of the sudden appearance of the Kraken, many people died. On the way to the grandmother's house, the hero's family comes across a Kraken and dies. The father of the family reminds that tomorrow the holidays begin, so he offers to see his grandmother. The sister doubts the trip, and Yoonhoo understands that he must stop them at all costs. While a conversation is going on between relatives, the hero remembers that they have one grandmother. His father was an orphan, so his grandmother is only on his mother's side. He remembers that before his return and after the death of his family, only his grandmother raised him. She supported him when he was sick and he was a total loser, but then she died. The father notes that it was very dangerous to go outside the city, but it should be safer to please after the government took over the roads. The boy turns to his parents with an offer to go to his grandmother next time. The father and mother do not understand why the son reacts to this in such a way. The girl squats down next to him, reminding him that he made a carnation for his grandmother, wasn't it, to see with her. Yunzu admits that he wants to see her, but he still insists on postponing the trip. The hero mentally realizes that he is just a child, so his word does not mean anything. Therefore, in order not to arouse any suspicions from his parents, he decides to behave like a child. The hero remembers that Children's Day is coming soon, so he expresses a desire to go to an amusement park to ride a Viking. He notices that this place is not far from their house. Yuna supports her brother's idea, saying that she also wants to ride a Viking. The father of the family notices that their children really have never been to an amusement park. The mother clarifies that this is a consequence of the great activity of monsters. The man decides that this can be fixed, so he announces that tomorrow they will go to an amusement park. The girl says that she will cook them something for lunch, after which she asks the children what they want. The hero's sister declares that she wants nuggets and sandwiches. Yunho rejoices that he managed to avoid the Day of Judgment. He notices that he cannot stand in the way of the Kraken, but he can stand in the way of his parents so that they themselves do not come to him. The hero realizes that his actions will change the future. Then the hero's mother's phone starts ringing. She picks up the phone and starts a conversation. The girl is very scared from this call. The news is clearly not going to be good. The hero's father and sister immediately ask the girl about what happened. It turns out that the grandmother fainted. Yunho can't believe what she heard, because before the regression, she was fine until he entered the player's academy. Mom thinks it's nothing serious, but she can't just sit still. She wants to see her. The man is also worried about her, so he expresses a desire to go with his wife. The girl remembers about the children. The father of the family declares that they cannot go to the park at such a time. He says that tomorrow, as soon as the guards on the roads are prepared, they will leave. Mom bends over her son, who is in a state of shock. She says that grandma is not well. The girl notices that the child really wanted to go to this park, but she offers to go to them another time. The hero is mentally aware that because he tried to change the future, his grandmother suffered. He understands that if he tries to do anything else, there is no telling what might happen. Yunho accepts the bitter truth that he can't stop the family from facing the Kraken. Then the question arises in his head, why did he come back here at all? Then nothing will be different. The last thought makes the guy rethink what is happening. He finally realizes that there is still one difference. It's him. Now he is completely different, because since early childhood he has been saving Mana, and he still has combat experience from his past life. The hero realizes that if he cannot prevent his family from meeting the Kraken, then he can only fight the monster. He sadly accepts his mother's words, saying that he needs to go to his grandmother. The Bureau of Mana Control classified all monsters, considering their threat level against the world's tranquility. The 9th class includes monsters that pollute nature or spread diseases. By the 8th grade, a monster that physically threatens everyday life. By the 7th grade, monsters who commit robberies or kill. By the 6th grade, monsters terrorizing areas of cities alone or gathering groups. They also break into human territory. In the 5th grade, there are monsters who commit terror alone or in a group, also having equal strength. The 4th class are monsters leading hordes from others, enslaving people or threatening their welfare. The 3rd class are monsters that threaten the integrity of an entire government. They have a threat at the level of a natural disaster. The 2nd class are monsters that threaten the integrity of the entire government and are equivalent to a catastrophe. The 1st class includes monsters that threaten the existence of all mankind. The Kraken belong to the 3rd class. The hero notes that before his regression, around the time he entered the academy, the Kraken were transferred to the 4th grade due to the high efficiency of the players. However, the quartered players are only C and E rank. They are too weak to fight the Kraken. Yunho realizes that he won't be able to defeat him on his own, so he only has one option left. It is necessary to wait for the 12 thrones to cope. The hero understands that he needs to buy as much time as possible. Unfortunately, the issue of weapons for a child is very sad. These are scissors and a stationary knife. The guy, of course, could have tried to steal a kitchen knife, but Mom would have noticed the loss. Yunho notices that even such a flimsy weapon, if he gives it mana, can cause some harm to the monster. A sister looks into the room. She wonders if her brother is ready to leave. Yuna notices that the whole family has already gathered. The hero zips up his briefcase, saying that he is already on his way. The family gets into the car and drives out. At the exit from the city, they get stuck in traffic. The sister falls asleep on her brother's shoulder, and Yunho himself is not going to sleep. Mom says that her son can sleep because the road will be long. The boy also notes that everything is fine. The hero recalls that then the Kraken appeared on the Sanson Bridge, just as they were crossing its middle, but now they have already passed half. The guy doesn't understand why the monster hasn't shown up yet. There is only one suggestion in Yoonhoo's head why this could have happened. The future has changed again. The boy mentally wishes that the monster would just let them pass the bridge, but his pleas were not heard. The bridge ahead collapses from a powerful blow. Huge chunks of stone rise into the air. Parents are shocked. The sister wakes up from the noise, and the guy realizes that fate has not changed. He notes that his enemy seems to be laughing at his desperate desire to change everything. The huge carcass of a third-class monster appears ahead. The kraken towers over everyone. It has simply huge dimensions, and as a weapon it has tentacles. The monster's huge limbs begin to destroy the bridge. Cars and rocks rise into the air. The destruction is simply terrible in scale. A couple of men are trying to escape from a natural disaster in a panic. Players who are ready to challenge the monster are running to meet them. Their leader pulls out his sword, calling on the others to protect the people. The giant's huge tentacles descend on the players, turning them into a bloody mess. Civilians are fleeing in panic, cursing the players for their weakness and cowardice. Meanwhile, the father of the family realizes that they need to get out of this hell. He notices that there is complete chaos going on outside the car, so they should be careful. The man asks to trust him, claiming that if they walk slowly, they will be saved quietly. Mom turns to her children. She urges them to leave the car and do what their father tells them. She may be nervous, but she believes that the players will protect them. The family leaves the vehicle, but Yoona falls to her knees. She's shaking all over with fear and shock. She's panicking. The girl says she can't get up. Tears appear in her eyes. She understands that she needs to get up and go, but she is unable to overcome the animal horror. The father, seeing the deplorable situation, decides to carry his daughter in his arms. He also wonders if everything is fine with Yoonhoo. The hero says he can walk by himself. One of the players commands the evacuation. He asks the family to follow him to the evacuation point. The boy notes to himself that the appearance of a third-class monster led the players to panic. He also noted that veteran players quickly adapted to the situation and began to evacuate people. But the hero knows that the kraken is not the only problem. They need to cross the bridge before one event. At this moment, the player is pierced by a spear in the abdomen. He falls on the road. This causes shock to the whole family. New monsters are starting to climb onto the bridge. Yoonhoo realizes that his monsters are already here. These are 7th grade creatures, divers. In appearance, they look like some kind of underwater race that emerged from the depths of the sea. Sharp fins on the neck, head, arms, and calves. Blue skin, huge eyes, and fanged mouths. They use spears as weapons. One girl is severely injured by a diver. He bites her shoulder with his sharp teeth. The players are trying to fight back against the crowd of monsters of the 7th class, and they succeed. One of the players picks up a girl wounded in the side, shouting about whether there is a person with healing magic here. The girl breaks down to the couple, but she is literally nailed to the car by throwing a spear. Monsters attack survivors. Meanwhile, the family is in the middle of this chaos. The man tries to calm everyone down, saying that no matter what happens, he will protect them. He urges not to look back, but just to run. All family members rush forward. Meanwhile, the tentacles of the kraken turn several cars into a huge metal ball that lifts off the ground. She throws a pile of metal towards the bridge. The hero is the first to notice the danger, so he immediately warns his father. Cars start falling from the sky, killing people and causing even more destruction. One of the cars got into a fuel truck. There was a powerful explosion that blocked the direct path along the road. The hero's family stopped, not knowing what to do next. They are accompanied by several players, one of whom asks the other where the reinforcements are, noticing that all roads are blocked by fire. His friend only answers him that they have only been here for a couple of minutes. Everyone understands that it's tedious to hold on. The hero remembers that the support from thrones should arrive soon. Before the regression, the 12 thrones arrive 30 minutes later than the kraken. Yoonhoo understands that the players are unlikely to be able to protect anyone if the escape routes are blocked. The hero is fully aware that players can compete with divers, but not a kraken. If no one can handle a third-class monster, then they will all die. The boy exhales, trying to collect his thoughts. His briefcase falls to the asphalt, and he mentally notices that he was preparing for this from the very beginning. He is willing to put his own life on the line to protect his family. He takes a stationary knife and scissors out of his pocket, preparing for battle. His mother notices his actions. Yoonhoo also asks his parents not to go anywhere until help arrives. The father of the family does not understand what his son is going to do. The boy says that the players repel the attacks of monsters, but if something happens anyway, Yoonhoo will protect them. He realizes to himself that besides him, only Yuna can control mana here. He asks her to take care of everything, after which he breaks off towards the kraken under the screams of his sister. The hero lets mana run through his legs, decently accelerating. Having gained a certain speed, he begins to move on the roofs. This skill is called Heavenly Steps. The guy notes that he often used this ability for mobility before regression, but in this body he uses it for the first time. Yunhu realizes that it's really hard for a child, but this way he will instantly get to the kraken. Under the surprised looks of the players, the boy runs towards the monster of the third class. He is warned about the danger, but he ignores it. Divers pay attention to the uninvited guest. They pounce on him, but the hero wraps a stationary knife in mana to attack the monsters. He dodges the attack of the first monster, after which he blows off his head with his weapon. Other divers are not asleep. The monster that attacks from below is sent by the hero to the asphalt with a kick, after which he finishes off with a blow to the neck. A third diver is already flying at him from above. Yunhu is not lost. He strikes first, taking the monster's head off. A powerful blow hits him tangentially, throwing him aside. The guy hits the car, then does a somersault in the air, ending up on a huge cobblestone. A stream of mana flows through the weapon, and new enemies are already approaching ahead. 3 kraken tentacles and 4 divers. The hero recalls his combat experience from a past life. His instincts are heightened. The first opponent loses his arm from a horizontal weapon strike. After that, the guy immediately turns around, feeling a deadly threat from the back. A second diver tries to kill him, but Yunhu cuts off his limb with which he wanted to kill him. The boy takes a stationary knife in 2 hands, realizing that his skills are returning. He likes this feeling of destroying monsters. He feels that right now he is becoming what he was before, immortal. The hero with a battle cry makes a dash forward, destroying 3 enemies at once. When he stops, another diver climbs out from under the car, who is going to taste a piece of flesh. The boy reacts to this by making a jump during the enemy's dash. After that, he finishes off the open monster with a blow to the neck. Another creature is approaching him from behind. Yunhu jumps towards her. In flight, the diver deprives half of the trunk, but after that the hero's stationary knife breaks. The hero notices that the weapon was not enough for very long. He decides it's time to finish. The boy throws the broken knife aside, taking a pair of scissors out of his pocket. He breaks them in the middle to use both blades with both hands. He stops right in front of the third-class monster's face. Yunhu realizes that he has no other weapon and will have to fight with what is at hand. A huge tentacle sends several broken cars towards the child. The hero jumps onto the monster's limb, starting to move along it to the enemy's head. After gaining a decent speed and picking up the perfect moment, he jumps onto another tentacle of the kraken. Due to the fact that she is in an upright position, the boy has to stick both blades into the monster's flesh in order not to fall off. Having stopped his fall, he begins to climb up with a furious cry. Here he has to interrupt his ascent, because the free tentacles strikes with the intention of turning him into a bloody cake. He jumps off the monster, ending up on the asphalt again. Yunhu notices that one of the scissors blades is too bent. Now it's useless, so he throws it aside. The hero is not going to give up, concentrating all his strength in the remaining weapons. The guy walks away from the powerful blow of the monster's limb, after which he jumps on it, making another attempt to get to the vulnerable zone of the monster. But this time everything is not going according to plan. The kraken raises its tentacle, preventing the boy from running freely along it. The hero uses the remaining blade, sticking it into the monster's skin so as not to fall. But he cannot extinguish all the inertia from the fall, which is why he has to push off from it to get to the next one. But the giant's tentacles do not allow him to do this. She sends the boy to the ground with a sharp blow. Yunhu hits the asphalt, then slows down his fall with the help of his legs and arms. He realizes that the situation is getting worse and worse. His mana is almost gone. The kraken breaks the base of the bridge on which the hero stands. The huge structure begins to fall to the ground. Curses are torn from the guy's lips in the direction of the enemy, but he still breaks from his place. He pushes off from the breaking debris of the bridge to get to the area that is still able to stand. He manages to reach a static object, but no one gives him a chance to catch his breath. One of the tentacles takes a huge truck in its grip to then throw it at the boy. The means of transportation is sent to the hero, who is preparing for this. He concentrates a huge amount of mana in his weapon, after which he cuts a huge truck in half with a military shout. The car flies a few more meters, after which it explodes without harming the hero. Then the light from the mana disappears, and the boy himself falls on his side. The sister's blade falls nearby. Yunho is trembling all over, trying to get to the weapon, but he can somehow move. The mana is already over, but the hero is crawling towards the blade. He forces himself to stay conscious, because otherwise everything he tried to do would be in vain. The Kraken's huge eye looks at the boy. These are the last things the hero sees before closing his eyes. However, contrary to all common sense and logic, he finds the strength to open his eyes again. He crawls to his weapon, which is just a little bit left. He decides to go to the end, because he wants not just to live, but to live this life with his family. The huge tentacles of a third-class monster rise up to deliver the final blow. The hero reaches for his blade, but the Kraken's limb is already descending on him. He is trembling with fatigue, but Yunho is not going to die here. That's where the miracle happens. Yuna runs up from behind, hugging her brother. She declares that she will not let him die. A powerful flow of mana surrounds the two of them like a protective barrier. The tentacles of the monster that hit this defense turn into ashes. The divers stop, seeing how the strange energy flow in the form of a ring expands. They do not have time to move away, which is why they fall under the action of this force, turning into ashes. The hero, watching everything that is happening, does not believe his eyes, because this is really a miracle of the sister. A miracle is a gift that allows you to change the world and its laws. Before the regression, Yuna only knew 4 people who possessed such a gift. One person was his reliable partner, Lai Yuan. When the hero first saw such a volume of mana from Yuna, he thought, what if she really has the gift of a miracle? The sister assures her brother that everything is fine. The boy notices that his wounds are healing, but this is not the main thing. The light protects them from the Kraken. Yuna knows that the use of a miracle does not go unnoticed. Those who possess this gift must pay a great price to change this world. It is because of this that the hero asks his sister if everything is in order with her or maybe something hurts. Yuna declares that everything is fine, but she is very tired. The girl loses consciousness. The light around begins to be drawn into it. The guy also notes that there is very little mana left in her, equal to enough to keep her alive. He wants to believe that for his sister, the price for using miracle mana. The hero carefully puts his sister on the asphalt. He asks her to rest, stating that he will deal with the rest on his own. He turns to Kraken, who is already ready to start the second round. A blue aura appears around the boy, protecting him and enhancing all his physical abilities. The hero notices that the third-class monster has opened his eyes. He realized that the creature was afraid of Yuna's power. A huge tentacle falls on the brother and sister, but the boy confidently declares that the monster will not touch her. Yuna deflects the blow of the 2 tentacles of the Kraken with his hands covered with a layer of mana. His mana has recovered, but he still won't be able to defeat the Kraken. All other things being equal, the hero rejoices. There is nothing to be afraid of anymore, because the future has already changed and his family will live, and the guy himself can only hold out until the arrival of thrones. By the time the Kraken appeared, she was on the one bridge, not far from the main scene of the action. A guy in a leather jacket, disheveled red hair and a good physique is sitting in the car. He is not happy with what is happening, because the cars do not even think to move. He turns to his driver, asking him if he is waiting on the pedal or just steering. And he only replies that there are a lot of cars on the road, after which he notices that now all the roads around Seoul are like this. Grumbler also says that he is thinking of leaving the 12 thrones, because it is unclear what he is doing on golden holidays instead of rest. He admits that he joined them because he wanted to fight shoulder to shoulder with strong guys and not mess with civilians. The driver just laughs nervously at this. Here both feel a huge source of mana. The driver begins to worry, but his passenger calmly makes a phone call. A voice on the phone informs the red-haired man that this is a Kraken, which has a 3rd class. This pleases a member of the 12 thrones. The driver sees the face of his companion, not understanding how you can have fun when a monster is raging somewhere nearby. He notes that people would be outraged if they saw such a reaction. Both of them get the information that the monster is on the Songsan Bridge. The voice informs that they cannot resolve the situation while there are players there. They also do not know the exact damage that has already been done, but they are confident that the guy will be able to end the chaos that is happening there. A member of the 12 thrones hangs up the phone, stating that he will dial soon. He gets out of the car under the surprised gaze of the driver, who immediately tries to find out what the clan lord is doing. The guy starts doing a warm-up, declaring that he will get to the right point on his own 2 feet, because with such traffic jams they will not get there. The driver does not believe his ears, because it takes at least 2 hours to walk to the Songsan Bridge. One of the 12 thrones takes out his weapon from a special chest, after which he corrects the subordinate, saying that he will need about 30 minutes. The clan lord is enveloped in power, after which he breaks from his seat forward. The driver understands that nothing else could have been expected from this man, because he is simply obsessed with battles and always strives to fight against the best. This is the Lord of the Clan of Blades, the Demon of Fire, Kang Hyunkal. Half an hour later, Kang arrives at the Seongsan Bridge. He moves towards the Kraken, killing divers along the way with his fire power. Here ahead he sees a huge column of yellow energy, which literally beats from the sky. Hyunkal assumes that this is magic, but quickly discards this idea, realizing that there should be no one here who is capable of such a thing. The Lord of the Clan of Blades grins, realizing that this is someone new. At the same time, the hero fights off the blows of the monster's huge tentacles. The Kraken raises its limb for another blow, and Yuna prepares to block the attack. But a man appears from behind. In his hand is a huge sword covered with fire. He jumps to repel the attack of a third-class monster. The boy rejoices that the thrones have come to his aid. A man with red hair lands on his feet in front of him. The hero immediately recognizes him as the Demon of Fire, Kang Hyunkal. At this moment, the tentacles of the monster are not just cut off, but also ignited. The monster roars in pain, making a quick attempt to get rid of the fire. Seeing that the enemy was too strong, the Kraken retreats, plunging back into the water. The gift of pyrokinetics allows you to freely control fire. From this, in fact, came the nickname of this man. Kang turns towards the hero, who has already taken a sitting position next to his sister. The man begins to think. He is surprised that there are only 2 children here. He realizes that one of them has great power. The Lord of the Clan of Blades notices that there is a whole stream of mana around the girl. He can't believe that it was she who created such magic. The man realizes that she has spent all the mana and lost consciousness. His gaze does not deprive the boy. Hyunkal realizes that the boy was protecting her from the Kraken. He smiles sharply, realizing that both children are already strong. It becomes interesting for him to look at them when they are players. Kang turns to the hero, stating that they should not be afraid of him. He says he won't hurt them, at least not now. The last words make Yunu tense up. He understands that this person is an order of magnitude stronger than him, so he will definitely not be able to cope with him. The man abruptly raises his weapon into the air, stating that he now has only one goal. It is to get rid of the Kraken. He asks the kid to stay away from the fight. At the same time, the Lord of the Clan of Blades throws his weapon on his shoulder, preparing to meet the monster with all his guns. He warns that the third-class monster will be coming out of the water soon. Meanwhile, the Kraken under the water is angry about what is happening. He craves the blood of the man who dared to cut off his tentacles. There is a murderous lust in his eyes.